Hi there, and welcome to a new episode of our European series where I cover everything in healthcare, technology, science, and business. I'm Lucas Perez. I'm a strategic expert and author in health and aging solutions, and I'm also the French representative for the EIT Health Alumni Network. It's a pleasure to have you today in order to address with my interviewee Soufiane Ajana what is machine learning and its impact in healthcare and more precisely in ophthalmology. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will answer them during a Q&A session. Unless I'm mistaken, we already have questions sent a few years ago from Casten, Anas, and Alvaro. And of course, we will answer them. So what is EIT Alumni and what EIT Alumni offers to its alumni? The European Institute of Innovation and Technology in Healthcare is an amazing community gathering more than 2,500 learners, academics, and entrepreneurs all across Europe and beyond. The main goal of EIT is to share ideas and experiences. And once you will make a registration, you will have the opportunity to learn more about your professional skills, share your experiences, build your network, and also get a job. Here is the platform. And where this platform, you can see all the members and all the network around Europe. Meet the EIT Alumni Board, where I am, and the French alumni team, where our current speaker, Soufiane Ajana, is taking part. So don't hesitate to join the EIT Alumni Network, scanning this QR code, and I'm stay available to answer your question. So before to pass my time to Soufiane, I just want to share you a quick insight about machine learning. So we are in a predictive society nowadays. We live in a world of data. We live in a world where is an amazing amount of data. The amount of data is very, very, very huge. It represents 64 zettaoctets of data, which is equal to 640 million SSD disks equivalently. There is a massive data collection, what is good for artificial intelligence and especially machine learning. Machine learning is a sort of method for AI to learn about this data. And regarding machine learning, you have a lot of subcategories such as deep learning, predictive, and prescriptive analysis, which are sort of statistical and mathematical model to predict the future. So here is the predictive society. So we live in this world where there is a lot of data, and the predictive society is somewhere our current society. What I call the predictive society is a society where machine learns from the past, from past experiences, past data, to predict the future. For that, and as you can see, the machine has to learn alone, has to learn automatically. Machine learning is the ability of a machine to learn and train an algorithm. And to give you an illustration of what is an algorithm is a sort of cooking recipe able to process and find a result, which is somewhere the final dish. So machine learning is divided in two phases. First of all, the learning phase. We let the machine build its own reasoning without putting a program before. The machine is learning from scratch. Machine is focused on different examples in order to understand the logic of the model to integrate. And for that, machine learning needs a massive amount of data to keep building its reasoning, its proper reasoning, and start its own learning phase independently. And then you have another phase, the prediction phase. Once machine has learned and integrate the related program algorithm, it should be able to determine a prediction. And for example, the machine could predict the onset of a blindness in 15 years, or could be predict the age of your death. But for now, it's maybe sci-fi. So now, let me show you a video to illustrate what sort of prediction the device could make. So this video illustrates perfectly how an algorithm learns about our life and our body, as you can see, thanks to connected devices, connected objects. And these connected devices are a sort of door open to machine learning. As we can see, with this mirror, this smart mirror, data related to the breathing and skin colors has been made by an artificial intelligence crossing the data. And when we have a lot of different cross data, it's easier to get more information and make a precise prediction. These data are related to skin quality, mood, and colors of eyes in order to maybe detect, for example, liver problem. And thanks to machine learning, we are able nowadays to predict, for example, the risk of age-related macular degeneration, as Soufiane will talk about it, and its complication, leading, for example, to a low visual acuity and even worse, a total blindness. And thanks to machine learning, we will have also the ability to monitor skin aging, which is an aging process. And we could create a potential application in cosmetics, for instance, where the user could get advice in order to select or use a certain cream, for example. So thank you for listening, and I'm giving the floor to Soufiane, who leads a startup that prevents the onset of age-related macular degeneration. So thank you again, and Soufiane, it's your turn.
Thanks, Lucas, for this great presentation. I really enjoyed the video as well. It's really futuristic, and that's definitely where we're going right now. And I can't wait to have these kind of mirrors in my bathroom as well. But for now, I will, yeah, okay. I was just trying to, well, here it is. So that's my presentation. So thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Soufiane Ajana, as Lucas just said, and I'm an epidemiologist working in Bordeaux. I'm actually a postdoctoral research scientist working on an eye disease called age-related macular degeneration. And right now I'm trying to launch a deep tech startup to commercialize my research work, and that's what I'm going to present to you today. So my startup name is Retinet, and it aims at predicting to better prevent the onset of the advanced stages of age-related macular degeneration, AMD in short, which is a blinding disease and curable disease as well. And as you can see here, AMD evolves through two stages. There is the early stage, which is an asymptomatic stage, therefore like without any complication on the patient's vision. And then we have the advanced stage, which is characterized by this black spot in the middle of your sight that might enlarge with time, leading to blindness. And just few numbers about AMD. So there are 17 million people diagnosed with AMD in the European Union, among whom 14 million are at the early stage of this disease, which is like the asymptomatic stage, as I just showed here in this image on the left. And we focus on these early AMD patients. They are our target with the Retinet startup, which makes AMD, by the way, the first cause of blindness in industrialized countries, and it costs annually 89.5 billion euros to the EU, and I said annually. And what is even more complicated and threatening is that the prevalence of this disease increases with age, since we count 1 to 2% of people with a form of AMD among those aged 50 to 60 years old, and this number increases to reach 50% of people for those aged 80 years or more. And with the aging of the European and the global population, the number of people aged 80 years or more will just increase over time. And so treating AMD will cost a lot more money than today. And what we try to address with our solution are these two needs that we found that were really important in ophthalmology today for AMD patients. That today AMD patients at the early stage of AMD, they have no tools today to predict their risk or to be aware of their risk of progressing to the advanced stage of this disease. And there are also a lack of proactive measures allowing to prevent or at least to slow disease progression over time. And that's what I'm going to illustrate here with the patient journey of my grandmother, Sarah, who is at the early stage of the disease. Yeah, because what I forgot to say is that I have AMD in my family, and this disease, there is a very high risk or genetic risk for having this disease, which makes me prone to have it when I'll be older. So this project really matters for me, and it's not just a project for my PhD or like it's really something that really matters for me and for my family. And so today, when Sarah goes to her ophthalmologist to predict her risk, or at least to be aware of the progression of the disease in her eye, today the ophthalmologist will basically analyze manually the retinal image of my grandmother by zooming in, zooming out, which is a very subjective approach and very time consuming. But that won't be the case anymore with our service, since we propose a personalized medicine service based on a digital platform called MacuTest that you can see here, with the aim, as I said before, of preventing the onset and the progression to advanced AMD. And so today, the ophthalmologist will have a more comprehensive approach to predict my grandmother's risk, since he or she will base the prediction of the risk on the retinal image, but this time that will be annotated automatically alongside with genetic factors, but also some other modifiable factors like lifestyle factors, nutrition, smoking, alcohol consumption, and also clinical factors like blood pressure. And once all this data is integrated into my grandmother's personal space, then the ophthalmologist will be able to predict her risk of progressing to advanced AMD using a machine learning based algorithm that I developed during my thesis, and that is integrated to the MacuTest platform. And then afterwards, if my grandmother is at a high risk of progressing to advanced AMD, then the ophthalmologist will propose a personalized care adapted to her needs based on a lifestyle biomarker that we will measure, and we will base our recommendations on the results of this lifestyle biomarker in order to lower my grandmother's risk of progression to advanced AMD, and then of course helping her following these recommendations over time through monitoring by healthcare professionals. And 1 year later, my grandmother will go back to her ophthalmologist to evaluate the impact of her new lifestyle on her risk of AMD. And so just a few words about where the data comes from, because when we talk about machine learning, as said Lucas before, there is like a training or development phase. And so the source of the data is very, very important. And we developed this project in the framework of the European program Horizon 2020, which is now called Horizon Europe, in collaboration with 14 research teams and industrials that you can see here. And what I want to say here, especially, is that we worked with people who had the need for our service, since we worked with ophthalmologists who were working in this hospital. We also worked with Roche, from the pharmaceutical industry, but also with patient associations. And so this collaboration, this fruitful collaboration, led us to reach an interpretable prediction model, since we didn't want to have like a black box prediction model like we can see today in the literature, but also in the market. We really wanted the ophthalmologist to be able to explain exactly what factor drives his patient's risk of progressing to advanced AMD. We were also very fortunate to work on a data with a high quality, since we gathered and we pooled actually our data with the data from other partners here in this program. And so we reached one of the largest prospective studies in AMD, gathering almost 6,000 patients who were followed up for up to 20 years. And so we reached like one of the highest precisions in the literature. Actually, it is still until today the highest precision in terms of prediction, since we can predict your risk today of progression to advanced AMD at 5 and 10 years with a precision of 92%, and at 15 years with a precision of 91%. And this work was published in Ophthalmology, which is the leading journal in its field. And now just a few words about the team, because I'm not leading this project on my own. I'm working with my associates. So Mathilde Béal, who is an expert in medical devices, so with CE marking, FDA approvals, all these regulation strategies have no secrets for her. And also I'm working with Jean Lepavec, who is a serial entrepreneur, expert in innovation financing and business development, and who is the CEO of the startup. But we also are fortunate to have a scientific board composed of key opinion leaders in their domains. So we have a scientific board composed of epidemiologists, statisticians, ophthalmologists, but also biologists. And yeah, and just a few words about the proprietary technology and certifications. So here, for the MacuTest platform, it was protected as a software in order to protect the code and to protect the algorithm that is inside the code of this platform. We already have a patent pending for a first version of the biomarker that we developed during my thesis, and then we're also aware of all the certifications that we need to have, like the CE marking and the FDA approval, in order to go to the market. Talking about market, we target two potential markets: a B2C market, like direct to consumer, but also a B2B market with pharmaceutical industry. So for the B2C market, as I said earlier, we focus only on early AMD patients, and we propose a SaaS-based business model. And so for these early AMD patients, we will predict their risk based on the retinal image, lifestyle factors, but also clinical factors here. But for these patients, we won't use the genetic, at least not directly, because what I showed during my thesis as well, is that genetics don't really improve the precision of the prediction, at least on a short horizon. So, and it will just complicate our go-to-market strategy, and it will complicate things with the regulation strategy as well. So that's why, you know, in order to go to the market fast and start collecting the feedbacks of our clients, we will stick to the model without genetics, and then we will, based on these feedbacks, we will try to find a way to integrate the genetics to our service in a very optimal way. And of course, we will propose all the time, like monitoring through recommendations, personalized recommendations in terms of lifestyle, but also with the healthcare professionals. And now let's go to the B2B market. So the B2B market is mainly the pharmaceutical industry. So it's also, it will be also a SaaS based business model. And here what we are going to do is that we realize that the early AMD population is forms a very heterogeneous group, I'm sorry, meaning that there are people who will progress very fast to advanced AMD and people who will progress very slowly or who might never progress to advanced AMD. And so what we are going to do is that we are going to use our service to select and target only people who are at a high risk for progressing to advanced AMD among those who are at the early stage of AMD. And then we will ask these patients for their approval and their consent to integrate them to a database in order to allow them to participate to clinical trials in order to improve the science around AMD. And so we will make this database available for the pharmaceutical companies, which will help them go faster for their clinical trials, therefore increasing their efficiency and lowering their cost of acquisition of these patients. And just about the competitive landscape, so here we compare ourselves to our competitors based on the personalized care and the precision of the prediction. So as I said early on, ophthalmologists today, they have no tools to predict the patient's risk precisely of progressing to advanced AMD, and they kind of give the same recommendations to their patient in a manner of one size fits all, since it will be mainly based on stop smoking if the patient is smoking, start eating healthy, do some exercise, and maybe take some supplements. And we want to improve that. And then there is 23andMe that I guess everyone knows here. Well, their main focus is not disease risk prediction, and for AMD they don't do very well since they base their prediction only on 3 genetic variants and no other factors are included in their prediction model. So they reach a precision of like 70 to 73%. And in terms of personalized care, they just give a patient, their clients, a report explaining their genetic background. So there is no personalization really in terms of monitoring and follow-up. And then there is Visible Genomics and Arctic Medical Laboratories, who are like our main competitors. They do quite a great job actually by reaching a precision of around like 80% to 85%. But in terms of personalized care, they just try to optimize the patient's visit frequency at his or her ophthalmologist. So nothing like us, but then there is us, Retinet, since we, in addition to all that, we bring more value by giving personalized recommendations to the patient in terms of their lifestyle, but also by proposing a monitoring for these patients to help them follow these recommendations over time. We also want to give the patient data control over his data to be able to share it with other patients, but also with other ophthalmologists, of course, or other healthcare professionals. And also we want the patient to be in a continuous contact with these healthcare professionals through a chat service that we propose also through our platform. And all that, of course, with the aim of creating and federating a community of patients who are proactive in the process of advanced AMD, of preventing advanced AMD. For our ecosystems, we have many partners from the academic part, but also from the banking part, from the governmental part, associations, also the specialists in retina here in France. But and we are also collaborating with the EIT Health, since I was also part of the wildcard program of last year of EIT Health, and also with the hospital in Bordeaux. And in terms of communication, so right now it's mainly about podcasts, something like some communication in the press, but also here like this web series. So that's how we try to maintain our visibility in online. And now just a few words about the market, and I will finish the presentation just after that. So as I said early on, so we have three markets. So there is the market of the prognostic, like market of predicting the risk of the patients of progressing to advanced AMD. And as you can see here, it's a market that is estimated to 213 million in 2021, including the EU and the US. And this market will increase by 50% according to some projections that we made in a scientific research paper. And so this market will increase to reach 320 million in 2040. And then there's the second market, which is the market of monitoring through the biomarker, the lifestyle biomarker that I was talking about before. This market is estimated at 2 billion and 227 million euros in the EU and the US, and it will also increase by 50% to reach more than 3 billion euros in 2040. And for the clinical trials recruitments, we have a market of around 100 million euros for the EU and the US. And there's a potential market, by the way, that we are thinking on right now, which is the telemedicine market, because we realized through our interviews with ophthalmologists that and also with the patients that there are 3 or maybe like 4 main needs. Well, the first one is that like in rural areas, people can wait up to 2 years before having before they can go and visit their ophthalmologist, before having an appointment with their ophthalmologist, which is like too long. And there are also patients who are dependent and who can't maintain their self anymore. So we need to send them an ambulance to bring them to the ophthalmologist. So this is very costly for the state, and also low-income countries where there are a lot of disparities in terms of access to health and ophthalmologists. And also with the COVID-19 pandemic, we can see that we want really to protect these old people and not letting them really going outside. If they can, just stay home and stay safe at home. And so for all these reasons, we want to propose a solution, our solution. In 2 ways: either we send liberal orthoptists or nurses, for example, for these dependent patients, so that these liberal healthcare professionals can go there and take all the measurements that are needed to predict these patients' risk of progression to advanced AMD, or we can create like points of care here, like for example dispensaries or optical shops also, but also pharmacies or the GPs, so that the patients can go there directly without going to the ophthalmologist, and then have an appropriate care and an appropriate follow-up and for their condition. And that's our vision, actually, at the end of the day, is that we really want to provide people with a complete and comprehensive service in order to help them with their strategy and their and make them proactive patients towards AMD prevention. And so that's what I propose through RetiNet. So now that you know what we do and why we do it, so let's just do our best to act together today to preserve our tomorrow's vision. And thank you. And I give back the floor to Lucas, if you're still with us.
So thank you, Soufiane, for your presentation. Your technology is very promising, and I'm sure you will have a future development with the pharmaceutical industry. And it's very interesting to see that your technology is mixing machine learning and also genetics. And personally, yes, it's amazing. And mixing also environmental factors such as air quality or also smoke and other bad factors, if I can say.
No, ideally, like seriously, if just to do the link with the video, you know, like about the connected mirrors, it could be great if someday, for example, you can just go and watch your mirror, you know, and then the mirror takes a retinal image of of you, and then to predict your risk of advanced AMD like right away, and take into account all these modifiable risk factors that we can act on, like nutrition, tobacco, smoking, but also other factors like exercising and all that stuff that we can really act on to lower your risk. And so it could be really great if we can do this someday. Well, I hope so, and I'm working hard to make this happen. But yeah, but I can't wait to see if there are any questions here in the audience, and to see if we can, and I do my best to answer them as I can.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, as I can say, so we had 3 questions from people, and so the first questions from Casten was, what is the most promising way to monetize the added value of machine learning and artificial intelligence? If you want, I can answer this question. So, in my opinion, for hospital, machine learning and artificial intelligence are considered as a tool to build accurate and robust statistical models from medical data, and generally for health personal data, which is collected in a huge volumes. So in hospital, you have a very, very huge amount of data from different sources. And in France, for example, we try to create what we call data lakes or a data hub, which are sort of centralized platform where all the data are gathered in one place, you know. And what so in my opinion, these tools could be used, for instance, in cancer research through multi-center trials, because you have the possibility, the opportunity to gather all these data from different hospitals, clinics, and also mobile apps to have a real-time, to get real-time data. And it's promising. It's a promising way to monetize, as Casten asked in his question, because you can save money. If you are a public body, you can save public money, making some research or improving your management in hospital, for example. So it's a promising way to monetize, and more precisely to save money for public bodies, in my opinion. And Soufiane, if you want to add some views.
Yeah, about monetizing. Well, I think that the major problem that we can find here is reimbursement, because that's really what every startupper like me who try to commercialize a service, like a prevention service, that's our real struggle, like really to find a way to work with insurances, for example, or with the governments, to be able to reimburse these services. But what we can see now is that there are more insurances today that are willing to reimburse such services in terms of prevention. And it's much more developed in the US, by the way, compared to Europe. But Europe, I think, is doing the best they can to try to catch up with the US. So I'm here. I'm trying to to change things, you know, at my scale. I'm pitching my project all the time to insurance and to governments and to investors also who have their word to say here. But yes, for me, like to answer this question, I think it's mainly about reimbursement.
Okay, thank you, Soufiane. And we got another question from Anas Weber, and Anas asked us, in order to use machine learning for medical diagnostic issues, should accuracy exceed 95%? So my question is, why 95%?
Yeah, that was my question as well. Yeah, why 95%? Well, maybe I will answer this question without taking into account the 95% because I don't know where this threshold comes from. But yeah, of course, if we want our service to be really effective in the clinical routine and of great use for the patients, so we have to have two things: a very precise model, that's for sure, because we don't want to be saying conclusions that are not very precise, and we want also to have an interpretable prediction model, because when we are working in the medical space, we can't say to a patient you are at a high risk of progressing to advanced AMD, for example, in my case, but we don't know why, because the model says so. No, you have to be able, especially as an ophthalmologist or as a healthcare professional, to explain to the patients why this patient is at a high risk of progressing to advanced AMD, and even more importantly, how the patient can act on the risk factors to be able to lower his risk of progressing to advanced AMD. And that's what we want to reach actually with our prediction model.
Okay, thank you. And then we got another question from Alvaro, and he said, how would you make your model more interpretable for your client and for experts, maybe researchers or maybe doctors use this point of view?
Okay, well, that's a really great question. I was just talking about interpretability of the model. As I said before, we worked and collaborated with ophthalmologists through the whole process of developing this prediction model and this platform. So every single step was validated by them, and that's what's really interesting about our project, is that we didn't just work on our side, you know, in our research lab, and a few years later we come back asking, so who needs our service? Now, every single step of the development of this service, as I just presented to you, was validated by ophthalmologists. And in terms of interpretability, just to make things clear, we're not using neural networks, we're not using random forests, these algorithms that are kind of complicated to interpret. We are using lasso, for example. We are using multi-state models. We are using models that are easy to interpret by the clinical staff, and who are used already, or who starts getting used to these machine learning models. And by the way, well, my prediction model is published, as I said, in ophthalmology. So you can go there, and I will give the link to Lucas. Maybe you can add it later on as a reference for this episode of the web series, so that people can go and read the scientific article behind this prediction model, and you will see that it's really interpretable. We know exactly the impact of every single factor on the prediction of the risk of AMD.
Yeah, right. Yes, right. And as you can see, all the publication, scientific publication, give us an idea of what is interpretability regarding data in this data processing. And we had another question, or maybe another advice from Adenai Padilla. And she said us, I work for a public hospital and I am an optometrist, and I have experience in innovation in healthcare. I would like to give you some advice. One will be to be clearer in the claim. I mean, I have read avoid risk, predict, monitor. I understand it may be that depends on the business model, hospitals, pharma, clinical trial, or phase.
Okay. Well, first, thank you very much for the advice, and yeah, I will try to improve that. Yeah, because the service that you're proposing is around preventing advanced AMD. Our main goal is to prevent advanced AMD. How are we going to do this? We are going to do it by predicting the patient's risk of progression to advanced AMD, and by proposing an appropriate and personalized monitoring for the patients. So actually, these three keywords that you said here, I would really say like avoid risk equal predict plus monitor. So these are the three keywords, and so I'm really happy that you that you pick them up, because like it means that you really understood what is the service that you are proposing. And yes, of course, I will try maybe to make it even clearer, maybe by adding another slide explaining really this difference between these three keywords and how they are complementary one to the other. And thank you very much.
And as you said, Soufiane, is not about avoid a risk, but reduce the risk or the onset of the disease.
Mm. And
yeah.
Mm.
And yeah. And I think we don't have more questions.
Well, there's a second advice here I can say.
Okay.
Adena is talking about the market. So she's saying the second advice, the market is different in different countries. For example, if patients are seen regularly somewhere, opticians at 2 years, or somewhere when they have already symptoms. Yeah, I totally agree on that. Here in France, it's on average every year that the patients who are at the early stage of AMD go see and visit their ophthalmologist. In the US, it's almost the same. But I agree that it depends on the countries, and of course that if we were to deploy our service in a country, we will take into account these specifications and to adapt our service to the clinical routine in these particular countries.
Okay, great. Okay, it was the last question. Okay, thank you. So do you have some insights, maybe Soufiane, to share to the audience, or about your solution, about your philosophy in terms of machine learning, vision, ophthalmology?
Yeah, of course. Well, actually, I still keep seeing these questions that are coming. Like there is one last one. I will answer this last one because like it's really interesting. There is Alvaro who's asking, have you tried data augmentation somehow? Well, I didn't go for data augmentation because we already have had enough data. As I said, we pooled our data, with other research teams in our consortium in order to harmonize all the data and to bring the most of the value that we can have from this data and develop this prediction model. So in this case, we didn't need data augmentation because we very often we use data augmentation for deep learning when we need like hundreds of thousands of images, for example, for CNNs, convolutional neural networks, to be able to reach a high precision. But in our case, we didn't need that. But thanks for the question. And just to go back to you, Lucas, yes, well, maybe the last insight that I might give in my case is that I don't know if there are here some researchers with us, but because very often in a research, so in academia, we really focus on doing the research, and we really focus on publishing new articles and going through the literature, and doing our research job, and we forget about innovation. Because what is innovation? And that's what I like actually about the EIT Health program, because it encourages people to innovate. And innovation is going from the idea to the patient care. Okay, it's going from the idea that you will develop in your research lab and the articles that you will write to the patient care. And by the patient care, I mean finding a market that is interested by your idea and where your idea can be of great value for this market. And that's what innovation is for me. And I find that it is not developed enough in our European universities and research labs compared to the US ones, for example. Like we can see there, like in Stanford and MIT or Harvard, all these big universities, they all have a huge aim for innovation, and they encourage all their researchers to go and file patents and innovate and create startups. It is not the case yet here in Europe. We are going slowly toward this direction, but I can't wait to be there and to maybe it can be another talk that we can have together in another episode of this web series about innovation in the healthcare space.
Yeah, you say the bridge between innovations, research, and development is very important. And so what we see in for example, in the French universities is the fact that you have lab, you have a group of researchers working in silo, unfortunately, and the knowledge is are maybe not very efficient, and so it's a big problem. And compared to US, for example, where the research is perfectly linked to the development, we have a lot of work yet. But so I'm pretty optimistic for the future, and seeing your technology, I'm very optimistic. So yeah, I think so. Thank you again, Soufiane, for your intervention, your presentation, and then your technology. I really think your technology is very promising for the future in terms of ophthalmology, but maybe by transversality, your technology could reach other markets and maybe other patients. So I'm very optimistic about that. And thank you all. Thank you, the audience, for your participation today. We look forward to seeing you for the next series. And don't hesitate to share your feedbacks through the form we will send you after this conference. And thank you again, and have a nice day.
Thank you.
And it's okay. Okay. Thank you, Soufiane. Thank you all. Thank you.